Let's bring in Alex Nowrasteh. He is the Director of Immigration Studies for Cato, which is a libertarian think tank, and he is in Washington, D.C. So I want to really walk through this with you because you know as much about this subject as anybody. For decades, America has been trying to get Mexico, the government in Mexico City, to help stop migrant smuggling and drug smuggling into the U.S. Mexico has not been able to do it. Why?
Well, one of the big reasons is that Mexico is a much more dysfunctional economy and much more dysfunctional government than the United States. You tell one part of the Mexican government to help the United States with law enforcement when it comes to drugs or other issues, and it's riven with corruption, and it doesn't work very well. On the other hand, a lot of the U.S. goals for interdicting migrants or drugs are quite ambitious, given the benefits of migrants, for instance, coming here to the United States. And it's difficult to come here lawfully for a lot of Central Americans. So we have this big pernicious black market, and it's very difficult to get a hold of this without at least allowing some of these folks to come lawfully.
And that would come under immigration reform that they're just not able to get in Congress for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So you would be more
liberal. That's a big part of it. But the president, whether President Obama or President Trump, also deregulate a lot of.
Let's stay on Mexico, because getting a Congress to cooperate with a president in the United States of America in 2019 summer, almost impossible. Talk about dysfunctional governments. But Mexico is an interesting study. You would think that Mexico City would want to be this close to America because our economy helps them tremendously. No doubt about it. Yet the Mexican government, for decades, has allowed the drug cartels, which run the smuggling operations as well on the human side, to get vast power and to do pretty much what they want to do. Killing, 60,000 Americans a year in drug overdoses now? I think it might be more than that. All right? So the Mexican government basically looks the other way. Yes, I know they take bribes. I know everybody's bribed and all that. But is there no hope down there for these people to be an honest government?
Well, the other side of it is the lack of trust between the U.S. and Mexican governments. So if we go back to, say, like 2008, when Arizona passed its immigration enforcement laws, 2008 and 2010, the Mexican government criticized Arizona. And the response from the U.S. was, your immigration laws are much more strict than anything Arizona has in place, which was a great and correct criticism, right? Pointing out the hypocrisy of Mexico. Mexico, to its credit, though, in 2011 and 2012, vastly liberalized its immigration laws, made it a lot easier to go to Mexico, especially for Central Americans. And this is where I think the root of this entire surge is. It's not that it's not necessarily drugs. It's not violence driven as much as people in the left-wing media like to say. It's not driven in terms of like other problems in the United States or changes in American law. It's changed by Mexican law, allowing more Central Americans to come in legally to Mexico and come up to the border, and at the same time, they gutted immigration enforcement in Mexico. That, I think, is the secret key to understanding all of this. So when Trump today...
If you are from Honduras or El Salvador or any of the countries, Guatemala, you have to show a passport to get into Mexico. All right?
Yes.
That's the law. These migrants they don't have passports. And there's a lot of them. There's hundreds of them. And there's thousands of them. And they're coming across. The Mexican government knows it. So the Mexican government's not enforcing its own laws. All right?
Absolutely.
It's not. It's looking the other way. And it's hard to, for me, as a rational thinking person, because this impacts Mexico negatively. The poor Mexicans don't want all these migrants sucking up their resources. They don't want to have to feed them and house them. And the environmental disaster is, you can see it. So there doesn't seem to be a plus for Mexico to allow it. Yet they do, which means there's only one reason why. They're getting paid. All right? The police and the army and the government are all being bribed, and they look the other way and they let these people do what they want to do because there's big money behind these migrant movements, as you know. There's big money behind them. So You were right when you just said the first thing you said was corruption, dysfunctional. So now enter President Trump, and he says, look, I've had enough of this. All right. And if Mexico's not going to do what we asked them to do, which is reasonable, they're going to pay economically for it. We'll crash their economy, and we can do it. So Mexico took them a week to say, oh, no, we'll do it now. Isn't that what President Trump should be doing?
Well, I think we have to wait to see if it's actually effective. Remember, the first part of the agreement that he said has been in place is this sort of that Mexico will take back the asylum seekers that come to the U.S.
Yeah.
Now, that was an agreement that has been on the books between the two countries for months.
But not
and
enforced.
Hasn't really produced any outcomes. It hasn't, like Mexico
right.
basically admits
because they wouldn't take them back.
In the U.S.
They wouldn't take them back, and that's exactly what Trump said.
Yeah.
Look, you're not doing what we're asking you to do. So we don't care whether you agree to it, you're not doing it. Look, Trump can't do enforcement. He's not down there on the border with a bazooka. All he can do is say to Mexico, you either do what we ask you to do, or I'll reimpose the tariffs, and we'll crash your economy, and then you'll have a revolution down there because people are barely making it now. All right, let's advance the story a little bit. It is widely perceived, and I do believe this, but I could be wrong. The Democratic Party doesn't want to stop the migrant flow to the United States, primarily for political reasons. You can turn states like Arizona from red to blue because most new citizens who can vote, and it takes a while, but they get there, all right? They vote for the entitlement party because they need that. They need that helping hand. So the Democrats, to me, doesn't seem like they want to solve the problem. Am I wrong?
I think that neither party actually wants to solve this problem.
Well, let's stay on the Democrats now.
So yeah, I think that that's one side of it. The Democrats want this issue to stay around for political reasons, like you said, but also because they want to be able to beat up on Republicans and say, you elected this guy Trump. His number one task, he said, was to close the border. And look at the chaos on the border. It's worse than it's been in decades, and over a decade.
We're simpatico. Now, the Republican Party, which could have passed strict legislation in the first 2 years of Trump's administration and didn't, okay, they're not united to stop the migrants either. Why?
Because a lot of them think, one, they want the issue to stick around because it helps them politically. And two, there's a big disagreement within the Republican Party about how to tackle this issue. The major bill that Trump supported in his first term was the RAISE Act, which would have cut legal immigration by 50%. And that was a bridge too far for a lot of Republicans to get behind.
All right. So there are Republicans who want legal immigration to stay where it is or even go higher based upon need. And Trump wants to make it lower, all right, in order to consolidate what we have here.
If I could throw in something real quick, Bill, like they didn't even try to address the asylum issue during Trump's first term. I mean, that wasn't even on the radar.
Right, but because the con wasn't as developed as it is now because the cartels figured it out. Now, here's my final observation. I want you to comment on it. Just the fact that Trump has got Mexico to say, yeah, we're going to put the 6,000 troops down there. Yeah, we're going to accept the asylum seekers. They have to live here, not in the USA. That'll get out. Word will get out in Central America because these people are paying. These poor people down in Tegucigalpa and San Salvador, they're paying these coyotes to move them. I think that'll depress the migrant movement because they figure, well, it's not going to be as easy as they're telling me it's going to be. Am I wrong?
It all depends on if it actually happens or not and if it's effective or not. And that's the history of all of this on the border, right? Like the government says they're going to do X, Y, and Z. They don't do any of it. Same with Mexico's government. So if they don't do anything, we might see a depression in the numbers for a month or two, but after that, it'll snap right back. That's what we saw after Trump was elected. The numbers went down, and then they snapped back pretty quickly when they saw that he wasn't going to do anything differently. And that's my prediction of what's going to happen.
It'll be pretty easy for the public to know that because Border Patrol puts out stats every month. And if you see it before, you'll know. And Trump's not going to sit there and be embarrassed. So he'll do something. Hey, Alex, I hope you'll come back. You're a smart guy, and we appreciate your perspective, and thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right.